In this course, we are going to be talking about a programming language called Java. Java is one of the most popular programming languages available. It runs on millions of devices and it does millions of different things. Java is called an object-oriented language, which means it has some very specific features so that you can better organize your code and reuse code that's related. Java is called a compiled language, and that's because it has this very special step between the language that you write and the code that the computer actually runs. And there's a very specific purpose for this, but we'll talk about it a little later. Java has memory management. So if you've only used a language like, say, C, you're going to find this to be very refreshing because you don't have to worry about whenever you use a bit of memory. If you stop using it, Java will just go back and clean that up. Really simple. A brief history of Java. Java was released in 1996 by Sun Microsystems. And they specifically designed Java so that you could write it once and run it anywhere. This is that compile step. There's a special translator called the compiler that sits between the code that you write and then whatever the computer runs, which is great because then any computer can learn how to understand that bytecode and you can use whatever device you want to write it. That middleman makes it so powerful, and that's why Java is used in so many applications. In 2010, Oracle acquired Sun. And the reason this is important for you to know is all the Java documentation is now under the Oracle brand name. So whenever you're trying to look up something official for Java, the Oracle website is where you're going to want to go. And then finally, we are in version 8 of Java. You can probably use earlier versions. There's not a huge difference between 7 and 8 for our purposes. But if you're going to download it, make sure that you download the most recent version. Here is your very first Java program, your traditional Hello World. This is the Java program to print the words Hello World to the console. Now, it might be a little bit more wordy than, say, Python, but Java has a lot of powerful tools. So even though it can be a little bit harder to get started, there's a lot of wonderful things you can do with it. The things to notice here are that very first line, public class hello world, that is what you're going to need in every file to declare a new Java class. And as you can see, that word hello world squished together, that matches the name of the file. And in fact, in Java, that is required, and you will get errors if that doesn't match. In order to write and run Java, you actually do have to go download something. You have to go download the Java JDK, or Java Development Kit. This is going to make it so that your computer has the compiler and then knows how to run Java code. You can find it on the Oracle website. The compile step might be new to you if you're coming from something like Python or JavaScript. Before you can actually tell the computer to do something with the code that you write, you've got to make sure that it's compiled. Now, there are some programs like Eclipse that automatically do this for you. So it almost feels as if you don't have to do anything at all. But if you're using a simpler program or you're using the command line, you are going to have to use the command javac to take whatever code you wrote and turn it into something the computer can understand. The interesting part about this is that you're going to find files just popping up in your folders. Anytime you compile a Java program, Java creates a new file with the same name as your Java program, but with the .class extension. Don't worry, that's supposed to happen, and that's going to make it so that your computer can run that code. Finally, once you've got that .class in a file, you can run your code, and you can run your code right on your very own computer. So you can always be checking how your code is doing. When you're writing things in Java, a lot of times you're going to have to come up with different names. And Java has its very own conventions for that. First things to know, Java is case sensitive. This means that the name upperclass M, my, upperclass C, class, upperclass N name is a totally different name in the eyes of Java from my class name, all lowercase. In Java, the tradition is something called camel casing. This means that when you name something, you should capitalize the very first letter of every word. The reason for this is because you cannot use spaces between the words of your names. Java doesn't understand that because Java requires that you do white space in a very specific way. My new class starts with a capital letter, meaning that is going to be a new class. But sometimes you'll see things named with a lowercase first letter, and then the camel casing starts after the first word. These aren't technically required, but you'll see a lot of Java developers do them. They're just tradition. Now that you have a little bit of a better picture of what Java is as a programming language, it's time to dive in and write your first Java program.